Hello and welcome back to the X-Files Revisited. We are on to episode 21 of season 2, which is Calusari?
Yeah, close enough. The Calusari,
Yeah. Okay, Brian, so is this a big X-Files episode?
I wouldn't say it was a small one. It's until this viewing, I'll be right up front. Until this viewing for this episode, I probably wouldn't have pulled it out of the hat. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it. I think this time around it was better than I probably would have given it credit for before revisiting. So yeah.
Okay, shall we dive straight into it then?
Let's do it. Okay, so we open up on a bit of a kind of children's fairground ride, like clearly for the younger kids, not like, big roller coasters or anything. But we have this family, an ordinary kind of looking family, until we see this boy, Charlie, who is a little bit off, shall we say?
Creepy,
creepy ass kid. Basically, his dad gives his younger brother his balloon because his younger brother is crying. He's lost his balloon, so he gives him Charlie's. Charlie's not too happy about this, and a few moments later, rather kind of weirdly, this balloon that he has this young boy suddenly drifts off, very kind of It-like, shall we say? Red balloon and all. And wanders over to a train track where the young boy follows it and ends up getting killed by the little train.
Yeah. Do you know that there's one thing on an episode of TV or movies or anything to put me instantly in the back foot, and that's a neglectful parent. When something happens to a kid, why does she not take that kid into the stall with her?
I know, right? Like, I can only assume that this is because this was the early 90s, and maybe people were a bit more trusting back then. I don't know. I mean, there was a time, and I remember being a child, not much older than what Charlie in this is, and I'd be off out with my brothers on our own playing, and I do think maybe the passage of time has a lot to play into that. I don't think we'd see this scene today in a TV show. I think we've come a long way since this with regards to our attitudes, but I think back then when this aired, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. We probably wouldn't have, particularly over in the UK. I know the Jamie Bulger case was a very big thing.
Yeah.
I can't remember what year that was.
It was very early 90s anyway, Brian.
It was early 90s. I know this is 93.
Yeah, and it was all blamed in Child's Play 3, wasn't it? Which was about 91, 92.
So certainly attitudes at the time were only just beginning to kind of, stop being so lax. But I honestly think if you'd have watched this back in the day, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I think it probably would have felt a bit more normal. Yeah.
And then it's as well as that, you think it's going to be a close call with the kid. The kid actually gets killed off.
Yeah.
And then you have creepy Charlie, who it felt familiar because we've had several episodes already where it's been creepy kids that have been causing these things to happen. And it just made me feel that, one, I wasn't happy with the kid dying. I wasn't happy with the parents' actions. And then I thought, oh no, here we go. Another creepy kid, poltergeist type of thing.
Okay.
Yet again. And instantly I was like, this episode has got a lot to do to win me over.
All right, this could go an interesting way. I thought this was a really ballsy opening. Like you, I took one look at that woman chaining her kid up outside the stall, and thought, what the hell are you doing, you crazy biatch? Because I don't think anybody would do that today. But as for the rest of it, yeah, I thought it was really ballsy to do that. Like you said, I thought it's going to be a close call thing. And I've seen this. I've seen this episode before. And yeah, it does. It hits you hard, the fact that they kill the kid. When they kill a kid in the opening scene, they can pretty much go anywhere. And like I say, it does have a very strong It vibe in this opening. You know, think about the new version of It, when the kid gets killed right at the beginning. You're like, oh, okay, they went there. That's kind of how I felt with this one. But yeah.
Let's move on.
Okay. All right.
So we go to the next scene, and we have Mulder and Scully with Chuck, our technician of the day, the guy who's going to enhance. Mulder, of course, is talking about, is it wind, Brian, that he's talking about here, with the balloon? And
yes, he's talking about how the direction of the wind, according to weather surveys and all that, was going in completely the opposite direction for it to have been possible to have blown that balloon in the direction that it went. Because witnesses say they saw the balloon going in that direction. Mulder says, nope, impossible.
Now that is amazing detective work. From that picture, he somehow managed to transport himself to that place so he knows which direction he's facing and all this nonsense and where the wind was blowing at that exact moment in time. Seems a little bit far-reaching, but we'll go with it.
I don't know. I think Mulder being the kind of person he is, he's going to look at this report that's come across his desk. The thing that's going to jump out at him more than any other thing about it, the thing that's going to get his alarm bells ringing, is a boy has followed a balloon over to a train track. You know, that's eyewitness reports. A balloon. What's a balloon? You know, what's the balloon doing flying? If there's anything he's going to jump on, it's that. So he's going to check the details, everything surrounding that. He's going to find out which way it went, according to eyewitnesses, and he's going to check the weather report. Given it's Mulder, I don't think it's too far a stretch, to be honest.
Well, I mean, as they say in the old Wild West, that's some mighty big supposings. But we'll go with it. And then Chuck himself does the old enhance, and to be fair, I do love it. I know I make fun of it, but enhance. Look, man. There's a ghost.
It's just they enhance it to such a degree that it really stretches credibility, doesn't it? It's like, where is this technology? Where can I find it? In fact, it doesn't even exist. They have to invent it for this episode, because Chuck himself apparently developed this software. So it's like the makers of the X-Files kind of reasoned that, okay, maybe one day this stuff will exist. It doesn't at the moment, so we're going to invent the person who's going to invent it, and hope that it follows in a few years. But yeah, okay, whatever. It's sci-fi.
Still fun. It's fun.
It's still fun, yeah. So Mulder and Scully go to the Holvies' house, where there's a Nazi symbol and a creepy old woman. So they visit the parents, basically to get their side of things, find out what happened, and there is indeed what looks like a Nazi symbol. We learn later that that's not in fact the case, but
to be honest, it got my hopes up, Brian.
Okay.
I was thinking this is going one of two ways. This is going either Hellboy or it's going Drag Me to Hell. And I'm fine with either of those.
Okie doke. So they speak to Mr. and Mrs. Holvey. Okay, you're laughing. This will be interesting. They tell them that they're looking into a different angle, and the father gets a bit uppity about Mulder's suggestion that there was foul play. Scully slinks off to see the old woman drawing on Charlie's hand. Then the lights go out, and the old woman kind of appears with the boy and says says in her own language that you married a devil, you have a devil child.
Yeah, that's what I was laughing at.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious.
You married a devil, you have devil child.
While she's holding the hand of the child,
Yes,
and the father's there.
yes. It's like she's got no problem telling this kid to his face, you may just be the devil's son.
Yes, your father is the devil. You are the devil's child. And she's so caricatured.
Yes.
She's like the old woman from Drag Me to Hell. You're waiting on fluids just oozing from her.
So it's safe to say that at this point we're definitely in the Omen territory. This is the X-Files doing the Omen, with a little bit of The Exorcist thrown in for good measure by the time we reach the end. Okay.
This is all for you, Charlie.
Okay. So Mulder gives some info on the Nazi symbol to Scully. Basically, it's not a Nazi symbol. If you look into the history of it, the Nazis actually adopted the symbol.
Yeah.
It was not gypsies, but is it Romanian or something?
I think the people here are Romanian.
Yes,
so could possibly be.
Yeah, but they say it's basically a religious protective symbol, and the Nazis kind of stole it, inverted it a bit, and then took it as their own. But Scully suggests Munchausen by proxy, based on medical records, which I love as an explanation. I think. I think.
Scully's like us. She's like that woman that's creepy as hell.
Yes, exactly. To be honest, looking at this family right now, just taking a quick surveillance of surroundings, I think that would be my go-to explanation at this point. Mm-hmm. That kid is in some serious trouble.
Yeah, and the Grand's probably behind it all. You know that the Grand's not got the best intentions if she's standing there calling the child the devil's son.
Although, as it will turn out, she actually does have the best intentions. But
yes.
Yeah. So they take a trip to the State Department, which is where Mr. Holvey works, and Mr. Holvey says that he suspects Olga. Shock, horror. Olga being the old woman, his mother-in-law, who calls him the devil and has some wacky rituals.
Yes. And it just adds more suspicion on this old woman. Gives her an even creepier name, Olga.
Yeah. My only question is, given some of those wacky rituals that go on in Olga's room, which surely Mr. Holvey must have some inkling about, why has he not thrown her ass out? I'm sorry, but if my mother-in-law was living in my house and started pulling some of that crazy ass stuff around my child, she's out on her ass.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as if it's normal bringing over groups of men hanging around a cauldron, murdering chickens.
As you do,
As you do.
Friday night in.
It's not like they're gang cooking, It's weird.
So, Mulder and Scully are at the Holveys to take Charlie in for psychiatric evaluation. The mum is not best pleased, and Mr. Holvey takes him anyway, but has an accident in the garage.
Yeah. I like how it plays out. It's familiar. It's also familiar. I can't place it. I've seen it somewhere before.
It feels like a kind of Final Destination type thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, something like that. I've seen it in something, and it's probably dated after the X-Files, whatever it is I've seen. But it's nicely staged and directed, especially with Mulder and Scully in the car, looking back just as the door opens, and the little boy's there screaming. I think we haven't mentioned the powder. Did we mention the powder? Is that came yet?
No, not yet. That comes just a few moments after.
Yep, go on. Because the little boy screams and blows out the windows of the car, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, does he blow out the windows, or does the other guy blow out the windows? That's the thing. At this point, looking at it, clearly Charlie is upset. Clearly Charlie did not want his father to die. In which case, clearly Charlie did not kill him. Which brings me to the question: what do you think of this kid playing this, what will become dual roles?
Yeah, it never jumped out at me, but now you mention it, pretty good. Wasn't the usual kind of kid acting that you see. But I can't really say that I took too much notice.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
so, what did you think?
I thought he was really good, actually. Yeah. When he needed to get to extremes, he was able to get there, and particularly during a scene we'll get to much later, I thought he was very good. But
right. Okay.
Yeah, but we'll get there when we get there. So the police are over at the house, obviously dusting and checking and looking and stuff, and there is a sacrificed chicken in Olga's room. Scully sees her out the window greeting a group of strange-looking... Well, to be honest, they look like Jewish men. They look like a Jewish kind of cult or something, but there you go.
There's a strong sense of rabbi there.
Yeah, definitely.
And apologies to anybody we've just offended.
Yes, as we are prone to do whilst...
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Mulder finds ash on the garage door motor, but no evidence of faulty wiring. Scully still says that it's Munchausen by proxy, and then just after she says that, the garage door starts working all of its own accord and just starts closing again. Olga tells them basically to get lost.
Yeah, pretty much. And then we have this ash, which adds a nice supernatural twist kind of thing to it. I think we get an answer to that ash next. Don't we? The next scene.
We do, yes. So, according to the lab results, the ash doesn't exist.
Which in itself is just a great statement.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no scientific way to analyse or to put it in a group or whatever. It just doesn't exist on the periodic table.
Yeah, that's it. So Chuck, however, has a theory. This guy is like Basil Exposition. It's like they need someone to get them out of these holes, and they've created this character for this episode. And sadly, from what I remember, he doesn't reappear at any point. But
that's a real shame.
It's a real shame. It's a real shame.
I did have a lot of fun with this guy.
Just wait till we get to Pendergast. He is someone that, he's a good character. He's basically one of these type of guys that they decided, you know what, we need someone a bit more of a permanent fixture. Love that guy. Anyway, but no, we're stuck with Chuck at the moment, who will never return, and he says that the ash is Fabuti, which is believed to be a residue left behind when someone's energy passes from one place to the other. So it's a bit of a... It's one of those kind of... It's not quite Red Museum, throw in a weird explanation that doesn't really explain anything and then move on kind of thing. But I do feel like we could have done with a little bit more, just a bit more detail. You get a sense of what this stuff is, but if you start thinking about it too much, you can kind of be left with a lot of questions. But yeah, that's his explanation. Residue left behind when someone's energy passes from one place to the other. Assuming he means from that when someone who is alive passes to being dead, or when someone who is dead comes back to the living world, or whatever.
Yeah, I took it as more supernatural breaking into the living world.
Yes, that's kind of the way I took it. So, yeah, basically Scully says it's bollocks.
Yeah.
In no uncertain terms, she may as well just turn around and say, yeah, Chuck, that's bollocks.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much Chuck's just turned around and went, you know what? Holy ash.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
And again, Scully's being the viewer and just going like, nonsense.
Yeah.
Come on, Chuck.
Absolutely. Okay, so Olga and her cronies carry out some kind of ritual with this blue smoke that kind of comes up in the middle of them, and in that blue smoke we see Charlie kind of railing at them, saying something to them, kind of looks very angry, and that's all going off just as Karen Kosef arrives. Now, you may remember this character from your favourite episode of the season, Irresistible. She was Scully's psychiatrist.
Oh, nope.
Okay, well there you go. She was. She was the psychiatrist that was helping Scully with her stuff.
Right. And just in a flashback to that episode, I think we just reiterated how memorable it really was.
For you. You're the only one who thinks that. Okay, anyway, so basically Charlie flakes out, and the mother opens the door, kicks the men out, but Olga grabs Charlie and locks the door behind them. Charlie goes uber Damien and basically brings a rooster back to life to attack Olga just before Mulder and Scully burst in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's roughly about this point that I'm just like, I've no idea what's happening here.
Really?
Yeah.
So
I didn't have a clue.
you just checked out.
Too many mixed signals from like little other movies.
Okay.
You know, so like, you have a clear image of Charlie bringing these cockerels, roosters, chickens, whatever, back to life. You have the images earlier on of Charlie in the car screaming when his dad was dying. You know, you seem to have mixed messages. You have the Gran doing some sort of spell. Has she caused this? I didn't know where it was going at all.
Does that sour your opinion of the episode?
No, that it makes it a little bit more interesting because I'm trying to figure out where it's going to.
Oh, so you don't mean it in a bad sense?
No.
Right. Okay.
No.
Okay. It sounded like you were checking out, as in, I'm done now. I can't.
No. Actually, this, you know, up to here, I've been struggling with the episode.
Right.
With Chuck was the shining light for me. Whenever he appeared, it was just fun.
Okay.
And the banter was good. But the episode itself just felt very familiar, kind of flat, and I wasn't really too sure where it was going to go to or which trope it was going to tackle. Because I thought it was going to be either spooky kids, poltergeist, blah blah blah, and technically it kind of is, but it does it in a kind of fresh approach from here on out.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So yeah, I mean, I do like the Rooster Attack. To be honest, it is pretty
awesome.
freaky. The way it pecks her eyes out, and yeah. And at this point, you are thinking, well, what's going on? Because Charlie mourns the loss of his dad, and then all of a sudden he seems to be everything that Olga says he was. So yeah, it is. I mean, I'm watching again. You know, I reiterate this so many times. I'm watching this from the point of view of someone who's seen it so many times anyway, and I think because I know where it's going, I think maybe I appreciate it more. I don't know. I mean, we've not got to your grade yet, but I think when I first saw this way back when, it wasn't one of my favourite episodes, and it's still not. It's not. You know, I don't think it's top tier X-Files, but I have grown to appreciate it a lot more. And I think knowing what's coming, seeing the way they build towards it, the way they give you bits of information to build that picture, which will eventually become clear, I think it probably is better with repeat viewings as opposed to the first viewing.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so Scully says that Olga died of a heart attack. And Mulder thinks, based on the tools being used, that Olga was performing a protection ritual. they hear Mrs. Holvey shouting. So they go downstairs, and she's asking the men who have returned, the Jewish-looking guys, to leave once more. These guys are called the Calusari, which is where we get the title of our episode. And they're responsible for carrying out sacred rites in the correct way. And the leader of these men tells Mulder, when Mulder follows him outside, tries to question him, he tells Mulder that the evil is still here. Basically alluding to the fact that whatever ritual Olga was trying to carry out wasn't finished and needs to be done so in order to get rid of whatever evil is in this house.
Yeah. This house is clean. Yeah, these guys are kind of fun. I kind of like them, but I mean, there's something kind of you feel as if they're kind of they have wisdom because of their age type of thing, but they're going about like like a gang of hoodlums, you know, like young kids. Like,
but they look like the Jewish mafia, basically, don't they?
Yeah. If they just jump into like a much better car, because it looks like a beat up beige kind of piece of crap. You know, if it was a blacked out sort of like limousine or something like that, you could totally see it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I kind of like the guys. The guys are fun.
Okay, so Mulder runs out to speak to them. So it was inside that this guy made this comment, but Mulder goes out to speak to them, and he says that if you try to stop us, the blood will be on your hands. So, plants the seed there into Mulder's head that these guys might just be the ones that he needs to stop all this. So Mulder and Scully talk to Mrs. Holvey, who thinks she may have been cursed for abandoning the old ways from her life in Romania.
Even talking about this scene, I'm just rolling my eyes. I was just like, oh, come on, Mrs. Have you never seen The Omen? It's just all crybaby and snotters and tears and just like, we're not buying it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Right.
Don't like her scene at all. Yeah. This is the point where you say you really thought it was effective and emotional.
I wouldn't say it was emotional, but I'm not effective in the sense that, oh wow, this scene adds so much to the episode. But I do think there are people in this world who do break out of very religious cultures that have a lot of ritualistic practices, and they marry someone in another culture, they go to their country, and they put that old way of life behind them. Now, I'm not here to debate the rights and wrongs of that, but that I buy this aspect, I guess, of this character, because there are a lot of people like that out there, and I think, I don't know, I guess the character does tap into something. If you're someone who's come from, I don't know, a culture like that, then I would imagine this character would speak to you quite a lot. But like I say, it doesn't speak to me in that way. But I get it. I buy it. I accept the character's kind of worldview and where she's come to, how she's got there. So yeah, in that regard, it's reasonably effective.
Right. Okay. I'll take your professional opinion on that.
Oh man. Okay. So Kosef, the psychiatrist, talks to Charlie, who gets very uptight and says, "It was Michael!" And Charlie's twin, who died in pregnancy, it turns out. So his mum hears the name Michael, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, we never told him." But he had a brother called Michael, died in pregnancy.
And then we kind of know what it is here. This is when you know what's happening.
Yeah, at this point, we know what's going on.
And I was looking about that room when the woman was talking to him. I don't know why, but looking for the cabinet full of the dolls with the one missing arm and the eye clawed out.
she's not on that level of psychiatrist. She's not. She's just not there yet. Olga had wanted to perform a separation ritual to make sure the souls stayed separate, but Mr. and Mrs. Holvey had said no, and Charlie then has a seizure. So going way back when, she's always wanted to do the separation ritual. Now the only question I have there is that given the fact that she's been performing all manner of rituals in the house while she's been there, and this kid is now, what, 10, 11, something like that, and she's been living in that house presumably for many years. Why the hell has she not managed to perform that separation ritual? You know, she's tried it. She's had a go. We've seen her in this episode have a crack at it. Surely, at some point, Daddy's off to work. Mummy might be off doing something. Boom! Right, let's get this kid separated. Yeah. So that's probably my biggest about the episode.
No, it's a solid point. It's what I was thinking as well. You know, she doesn't seem shy about doing these things. She's not doing them in secret.
No.
It's, you know, so.
Yeah.
But hey ho,
Okay.
it's a small point.
Yeah. Okay, so Scully tells Mulder that they want to keep Charlie in for more tests. And a nurse tries to inject Charlie, so Michael basically nobs her one on the head.
Oh, yeah. Is this the moment we see Michael in the corner of the room?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. It's a good image. It's very atmospheric. I like it.
It's very creepy. It's nicely shot. I like the lighting in it. Yeah, it's good stuff. And now that we see Michael as a physical entity in the same room as Charlie, it gives us an enemy that we can see and we know what we're trying to.
And I would definitely say this is the moment where it goes up a gear, right here, because what follows is pretty good.
It's kind of like the opposite of Dodd Calm, isn't it?
Yeah.
It kind of starts off a bit, and then just kind of skyrockets at the end, whereas Dodd Calm just did the exact opposite. So, okay, Charlie wakes up his mum. Well, Charlie wakes up his mum and demands to go home. So she takes him. Mulder and Scully see them leaving and go to check Charlie's room. They find him there in his bed looking ill. And the nurse tells them she was attacked. Mulder sends Scully... I love this bit. Mulder sends Scully into the danger zone. Highway to the danger zone right there while he gets help. Which, you know, if I was Scully, I would be interpreting as, I'm just going to chicken out on this one, Scully. I'll let you take this one from here. I will see you later.
I'm looking at my notes, Brian, and I think obviously I had a potty mouth at this point in the episode.
Okay.
So I'll read out what I've wrote for a few scenes. It's like,
is this where the episode gets an
explicit rating? I might beep it out actually.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So Ghost fucks with Mum. She casts a spell. Michael is all mental and shit. Mulder calls in the Ghostbusters and Scully's at the house and it's all spooky and shit. So obviously,
the thing is, when you start writing notes in that fashion, which I sometimes do, I tend to find that it's because you're actually quite engrossed in what's going on, because you don't want to stop it after every single scene change to write a note. So you want to absorb it, and you end up just letting it run, and then afterwards you try and fill in the blanks. Is that what happened here with you?
Yeah, I don't stop at all. I think I'm just scribbling while I'm watching it, so it's the easiest shorthand I've got, especially when I'm like, Mulder calls in the Ghostbusters. Okay. I know what that means when I'm writing it. Okay. But it's just like shorthand just to scribble down so I can keep watching, because like I said, this is where it gets really good. Right. It's where it jumps. It takes a definite jump from The Omen into The Exorcist.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So Yeah, so Mulder goes to get help, apparently. Michael taunts his mum. Basically, comes out with some stuff that, man alive, that child is getting buried, I tell you. His mum gets some matches from a drawer and disappears. Basically up to Olga's room. She's going to perform a ritual. She's cottoned on to the fact that this ain't Charlie. She starts a ritual upstairs and Michael comes in and she moves towards him with a knife. At that point, the Calusari arrive at the hospital and Scully enters the Holby house where there's no lights. The lights have gone out, basically. What I like here as well is that Scully gets to witness
the
craziness, yes.
Yeah.
She doesn't get locked out and just hear a load of screaming. She's in there with it. So
like that whole scene's excellent when they calls in the Ghostbusters. The guys come in, they start to do their exorcism, pretty much, and sorry, I just caught one of my notes out of the corner of my eye. It's like, I take it they sprinkle herbs over the guy, over Charlie. Yeah,
because of the black spots, you mean?
Yeah, or something like that. Because I've got like the Ghostbusters season Charlie while chanting, and Mulder helps abuse the boy. I think they call him over to hold him down.
Yeah.
And then probably the best thing, the set decoration is the walls oozing yellow.
Yeah.
It's like fat running down the walls. It's so textured and just disgusting looking.
Yeah, ectoplasm, I believe they call it.
Well, I never actually thought of that. I just thought it was disgusting stuff. But I can't say that I've seen that in something before.
Yeah, Ghostbusters. It's ectoplasm.
Can't say I've seen that before now. Even now, didn't clock on that. It just felt weird and icky and horrible and disgusting.
It looked like bile, basically. It looked like Eugene Toombs had been on the case, So, the exorcism begins, and Mulder's looking at this boy, and one of the Calusari says, "Look away, or he will recognise you."
Yeah.
Which is really creepy, to be honest. Because, you're no longer... You can no longer think of this boy as a boy. It's a demon. It's an evil spirit. It is no longer human. Just this idea that don't look at it because it'll recognise you, and if it recognises you, it's going to keep coming for you.
It's one of those sentences that just makes the hairs in the back of your neck prick up.
Yes,
just this style.
Yeah, because it's not overly explanatory. It doesn't spell everything out for you. It's just a sentence that kind of makes you go, if he recognises me, that must be a bad thing. I don't know in what sense, but that's all I need to know. It's a bad thing if he recognises me, so I turn away, do not look. I like that. It's good. It's a good line of dialogue. So Mrs. Holby is on the ceiling at home, getting dragged around all over the place. Scully gets thrown around and sees some things, gets crashed through a table and stuff. Sees Mrs. Holby up on the ceiling. It's a nice moment, actually, when Scully kind of feels Mrs. Holby's foot kicking her head and turns around and just sees her there. You see the shock on her face. But the Calusari finish their ritual and Michael disappears. Scully looks like she's bricking it just beforehand. Yeah, so just before he disappears, he's coming towards Scully with a knife. I feel like Scully would put up a bit more of a fight here. I think that they have this prolonged shot where she just kind of covers herself, which I'm not buying. She sees a kid coming towards her with a knife. Scully kicks ass. She's not Mulder. Yeah. I don't buy that she would just cower and put her arm over her head.
No, she doesn't come across as the most maternal of figures. You could quite see her kicking a child in the face.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
You could. I mean, we saw that in the first season. She wasn't
At her sister's party.
Yeah.
You know, she looks as if she's ready to kick a couple of kids there.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so so I don't quite buy the level to which she's kind of bricking it. I think she'd be scared, but she doesn't strike me as the kind of person who would let that fear overtake her.
Yeah, you kind of have that fight or flight thing built into you, don't you? And she's definitely a fighter.
She's a fighter, not a flyer. But Scully arrives at hospital with Charlie's mum. Calusari dudes tell them to be careful. It knows you. Mulder's voiceover talks about possession by a dark, malevolent force and how innocence and vigilance may not be enough against the howling heart of evil. Mm-hmm.
And we're done.
And we're done. Yeah.
Okay. I'll go first on this one, Ryan. Why not?
Go on.
I think, like I said at the start, I think it's my being a father myself. Whenever I see a kid in jeopardy or dying at the hands of neglectful parents, it really does affect me. You know, puts me in the back foot straight away, and it takes a lot to overcome that. So instantly, I found the episode was very hard to win me over, and then the muddled feeling of not really sure where the episode was going was at the same time disappointing but exhilarating, because it never did the path I thought it was going to go. Always kind of manipulated and changed and evolved the storyline. Like I said, it does follow some big horror staples and big famous movies, but it changes between them. It goes from The Omen to The Exorcist, and when it does that, when it changes into the exorcism scene, it becomes something pretty fantastic. Like I said, I really enjoyed that exorcism scene. I thought it was inventive, fun. There's not a lot to it, but it is highly atmospheric and extremely effective. Like I said before, the ectoplasm in the walls was really gnarly. I thought that was something really textured and just made it even more icky. You know, like it's just this was evil coming out of the whole place. But there was lots of things that annoyed me about the episode as well, like the Mulder sort of knowing which way the wind was blowing that day at that time and all that nonsense with the balloon. The mum's overacting as she was like snotters crying and stuff like that just kind of put me off, and the Gran was a bit weird and everything was just a bit not unsettling but just off. And I found an episode that I kind of liked parts of and I kind of didn't like other parts of it, and even now I'm like, God, I don't know where to go, but I think I'm just going to go for a 2.5 on this one.
Alright, fair enough. This is a strange one for me. I know where you're coming from, because I think at one point I would have probably been around the same ballpark, but I think time has been kind to this one for me. I like it a lot more than I used to, and I do think, repeat viewings have just made me appreciate it more. I get what you're saying about the neglectful parents stuff, but I don't. It doesn't put me off, you know. Yes, they make me angry. I think these people are idiots. They are neglectful, but one, like I say, it comes from a different time. You know, this is it's like over 20 years old now. It's 25 years old. Things were very different back then. But it doesn't bother me that much, because the impact that opening has, it really gets my back up, and it's meant to. It's meant to make you feel that way. I think the kid is very good in it, which brings me to that other scene that I mentioned. There was another scene in which he got very good in, and it was the exorcism scene. He's very good in that. You know, the way all the men are chanting over him and stuff, and he's just he's railing at them. He's just spitting all this bile at them and shouting some kind of Romanian at them, and it's just I thought he did very well as a young actor in that moment. Quite a difficult scene, I think, to play, especially when you're surrounded by a bunch of adult actors, you know, who most of them who are in their kind of geriatric years. So yeah, I did like the performances throughout most of it. I think, yes, the character of Olga is a bit weird, a bit over the top, but there are still a lot of, when you deal with religious cultures, some cultures today that are still steeped in ritual and, religion, and I'm not talking about faith here, I'm talking about religion as in, the practice of ritualistic kind of mentalities. I can see that very much being a thing, and yeah, people like us would look at that and think that's just weird. Why would you put up with that? But yeah, I had a couple of gripes, mainly the fact that Olga didn't perform this ritual ages ago, quite frankly. But other than that, I like the way it builds. I like that it feeds you bits of information, and then once you get the answer, it all connects together, and then the finale is just kind of balls to the wall weirdness. Yeah, I like that build up. I just see, I'm torn because when I wrote my notes, when I watched the episode, I gave it a 4 out of 5. Yeah, talking with you about it just does bring a few more things to light. I don't think I'm as bothered by the wind direction thing as you are. I think, but I think I will give it a 3.5. I am going to settle on 3.5. For those listening who are not aware, I don't know why you would be because we've not mentioned it yet. I did actually drop my grade for an episode in this season, based on a discussion me and Graham had about it. I won't reveal what that episode is. I will save it till our wrap up of the season. But yeah, it does happen. I come away from these discussions sometimes and I realise that actually my fandom of the show can sometimes get the better of me. But I think, yeah, 3.5 out of 5 is a very fair grade for this. So that's what I'll go with.
Yeah, cool. Okay, Brian, so the next episode is Emasculator.
Emasculator, yeah. Emasculator. So...
Right. So tell me a little bit about this one.
Well, think the film Outbreak, and you kind of...
Love it.
Yeah. So it's
nice.
Basically the X-Files version of Outbreak.
So it's got Mulder and Scully chasing a monkey?
Mulder and Scully chasing a virus. Basically, a virus is spreading. They need to try and find the source. And, yeah.
Oh, nice, nice. That sounds very different.
It's actually quite a decent episode. And from what I remember, it's not one that gets highly praised. It was one that I always thought was better than people gave it credit for.
Right. I mean, just the idea of it, it sounds quite appealing to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, looking forward to that one.
Okay.
So, look forward to that. So, we'll see you next week for another episode of the X-Files Revisited, which will be, Brian, the title again is?
Emasculator.
Yeah, that's easy for you to say. I think we'll just let you handle that one from now on. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on... What show are we, Brian? The X-Files Revisited. I'm going to leave that one in for free, folks.
Yeah.
Catch you later.